the issue of standing. Standing is a very important legal concept. We need to understand it. Standing is important for the following reason. If I ask you this question, if a police conducted an illegal search, and if the question is whether the evidence obtained by the police in this illegal search could be used against the defendant or not, maybe you would say this question is really a simple question. The evidence obtained in a police illegal search could not be used as evidence against the defendant in a trial. But you need to understand, your answer is not wrong, but you also need to understand this. It is not anyone can challenge the police illegality. Suppose police conducted an illegal search. It is not anyone can show up in court to say police conducted an illegal search and then the evidence must be excluded. Not everyone can do this. For a person to have this right to challenge the police action, to challenge this police illegality, the person must have standing. If a person does not have standing, then the person cannot challenge the police illegality. So that's why this issue of standing is very important. Now we need to look at this example to understand what we mean by standing. In this case scenario, Alan and Bill share an apartment. Charlie is Bill's friend. Alan stole Bill's radio. Bill is too shy to ask Alan to return the radio. Charlie is not happy about the situation, and Charlie wants to go to court to seek a court judgment to make Alan return the radio to Bill. The question is, would the court take the case filed by Charlie? You need to take a pause to think about this issue. Would court entertain the case filed by Charlie? The answer to the question is no. The court would not take the case. Why the court would not take the case? Because Charlie has no standing in the case. Because we need to look at the case scenario, and we know whose radio was taken. It is Bill's radio. So if the court is going to say if that is Bill's radio, if Bill really wants to get the radio back from Alan, Bill must come to court to file this action. Charlie, who are you? What is your business in this case? So Charlie, it is not this radio does not belong to Charlie. So Charlie actually, we say, would have no standing in this case. So that's why the court would not take the case. So in this case, this is not a criminal case, but we know from this case we can see the significance of this the issue of standing. Why the court would not take Charlie's case? Simply because the court would say Charlie has no standing. This situation would be the same in Fourth Amendment situation. As we said, to challenge this police illegality, the person also needs standing. If a person has no standing, the person cannot challenge the police action. Now let's look at this case scenario. And we have this Bill and Charlie, and Bill and Charlie are friends. The police illegally searched Bill's bag. In it, the police found drugs that belong to Charlie. So now Charlie is on trial for possession of drugs. The issue is, can Charlie challenge the police action challenge this police illegal search and ask for exclusion of the evidence obtained in the illegal search? Once again, the answer is no. Why? Charlie cannot challenge this police illegality because we need to know police did not search Charlie's bag. Police searched Bill's bag. So police violated whose right? Police violated Bill's right. Police did not violate Charlie's right. So Charlie, in this case, once again, Charlie has no standing. So in this case, even though the police conducted an illegal search, Charlie cannot challenge the police action. Charlie cannot request to exclude this evidence obtained in this illegal search because police did not violate Charlie's Fourth Amendment right. The court made it very clear. Fourth Amendment right is a personal right. So if a police violated Charlie's right, Charlie can challenge the police action. If the police did not violate Charlie's right, Charlie simply cannot challenge the police action. So in this case, even though police conducted this illegal search, but this evidence would not be excluded. The evidence could be used as evidence against Charlie. But of course, if in this case, if these illegal drugs actually belongs to Bill, and then if Bill wants to challenge this police action, and then Bill can do it because police conducted an illegal search of Bill's bag, and in that sense, police violated Bill's constitutional right. So this is why we say this issue of standing is very important in this Fourth Amendment analysis as well. This is not only in civil cases, in this Fourth Amendment cases, whether a person has a standing or not, it is also a very important issue. Now let's look at what happened in this Minnesota versus Olson. This issue, the main issue in this case, actually is the issue of standing, meaning is whether this defendant, that is Olson, could challenge the police action or not. What happened in the case was the defendant was involved in robbery and also fatal shooting, and then the defendant, and then the police had this probable cause and also an arrest warrant to arrest the defendant. But the defendant was not in his own home. If the defendant was in his own home, we know the situation would be straightforward. Police had a probable cause, and the police also had this arrest warrant, and then the police could enter the defendant's house to make the arrest. But in this Minnesota versus Olson, in this case, the defendant was in his girlfriend's home. So in this situation, police had a warrant to arrest the defendant, but they did not have the search warrant to enter the girlfriend's home to make the arrest. But the police nonetheless entered this girlfriend's home and then arrested Olson in his girlfriend's home. So the issue in the case, so we know in this situation, legally speaking, the police should have obtained this search warrant. That is the only way they could enter this girlfriend's home legally. But the police did not do that. So we do have this police illegality here in the case. But the issue here is police illegally entered defendant's girlfriend's home and made the arrest, whether the defendant could challenge this police illegality or not. So the police entry into this girlfriend's home, indeed, that was illegal, but police did not enter Olsen's home illegally. Police entered Olsen's girlfriend's home illegally. So can Olsen challenge this police action or not? That was the issue in the case. Of course, after Olsen was arrested, he was brought to the police station, and then he confessed to his crime. So he made a confession. So at trial, he wanted his statement, his confession, to be suppressed. But if and then what is the basis for this request to suppress his statement to the police? The basis was the defendant argued police violated his Fourth Amendment right by entering his girlfriend's home without a warrant. So now we need to determine whether Olsen had standing to challenge this police action or not. Once again, we know this issue is whether police actually violated Olsen's constitutional right. It is important for us to understand the court in the case indicated how we should do the analysis. The court says the Fourth Amendment protects people's legitimate expectation of privacy. So what do we mean by this legitimate expectation of privacy? Legitimate expectation of privacy is the expectation of privacy society is prepared to recognize as reasonable. So in this case, Olsen was in his girlfriend's home. So to determine whether police violated Olsen's Fourth Amendment right, we need to determine whether police violated Olsen's legitimate expectation of privacy. If a police violated Olsen's legitimate expectation of privacy, and then the police violated Olsen's Fourth Amendment right, meaning is if Olsen actually enjoyed legitimate expectation of privacy in his girlfriend's home, and then even though police entered his girlfriend's home illegally, and then Olsen would have a standing to challenge that, because by entering his girlfriend's home, police also violated Olsen's legitimate expectation of privacy. So that means in that sense, police would have violated Olsen's Fourth Amendment right. So in that sense, we know the determination whether Olsen had legitimate expectation of privacy in his girlfriend's home became a very, very important issue. So what was the ruling of the court? The ruling of the court was this. The court said, as an overnight guest in his girlfriend's home, Olsen actually had legitimate expectation of privacy. So the ruling of the court actually is this. An overnight guest should have this legitimate expectation of privacy. Because of that, the ruling of the court was Olsen in his girlfriend's home, and he was an overnight guest, so he had this legitimate expectation of privacy. So by entering Olsen's girlfriend's home without warrant, the police actually also violated Olsen's Fourth Amendment right. In that, by so ruling, that simply means the defendant, Olsen, had standing to challenge the police action.